Hello, everybody, and make sure to walk with rhythm. Welcome back to the Dune universe, which is blasphemy to some to even be talking about this book because it is not written by Frank Herbert. This, you know, era that I'm currently in, where it's primarily just Frank Herbert, right? It's just primarily Brian Herbert and Kevin Janderson. Half of the Dune fan base seems to hate it, almost as much as Noah, Quality Autism, hates post New Jedi Order stuff. But you know what? I'm having a good time with it, and I'm going to talk about it. And if I don't have a good time with it, I will let you know. But here we are with the first book in this next trilogy, chronologically anyway, called Sisterhood of Dune. Of course, written by Kevin Janderson and Brian Herbert. So, I wrote notes, some, but I'm just going to give you a general gist. You can read it for yourself. There's a lot going on in this book, um, but this is 83 years after the events of um, the last trilogy, which involved the robots and everything. We're seeing stuff develop with the Sisterhood, of course, because their name's in the title. Um, and we see a lot of stuff going on with them. Vela Harkonnen goes to train with the Sisterhood. They're not called the Bene Gesserit yet, but they are, they're essentially becoming that order. Um, and a lot of stuff's going on with Vela and everything, and Rakula. There's a lot of names to remember, but the lead sorceress right now, and they've still yet to become the Bene Gesserit as you know them in the original Dune book, but they're starting up their stuff. The only thing really of note with them to mention, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can get in detail with Vela and everything, but essentially, um, they're still using computers secretly, and so that's a big thing. There's Joseph Venport, who is hanging out with Norma Zenva, who is a navigator. She was from the previous trilogy, and she's this, navigator thing now. And they're trying to get more navigators for the, for space, because at this point in time, the Butlerians, this big religious military sort of movement, well, the machines are destroyed. So what is the religious fervor now? It is to destroying every single piece of technology still out there. And it's a big catalyst for events in this book because we get introduced to a man. He might have been in the last trilogy, I don't remember, but his name is Manfred Toronto. And he is the religious figure. He's, cut off from the bottom half. He only has a torso upwards. He wants to destroy all machinery. He wants to, because the mind of a man is holy, and if you have machines, someday they'll come back. We also have Vorian Atreides. Vorian Atreides was in the last trilogy as well. He has a life extension treatment due to his father Agamon, and he cannot die of old age as soon as other people do, anyway. So he's still alive. He's an entirely new family on this, planet. He's just trying to settle down and be left alone. Now, events in the story make him have to be more important than that, but that is the gist. And of course, the Harkonnen still want revenge for him betraying Abelard Harkonnen. We have, and the Manfred stuff though is probably my favorite stuff going on. It's that, then the Vorian Atreides stuff, and the Holy Trilogy of stuff in this book is stuff with Gilbertus Albans, which Gilbertus was introduced in the final book of the last trilogy. He is the very, very, very first Mentat, because Erasmus, the robot from the previous series, created him to be such. And so all that's left of Erasmus is like a memory core. Like, it's just his brain. But he doesn't have a body or anything anymore, and he's being hidden in Gilbertus's office. Which I think is really funny, because the whole point of the Mentats is that they, you know, are computer humans. They don't need, computers to do stuff. But all of this originated from a computer. I just think that's great. But it's really good stuff, and the catalyst, and then there's also stuff going on with Emperor Salvador, and the Butlerian movement is so large and so vast across the entire galaxy that even the Emperor himself is at the will and whim of these people, and he has to keep them in check Kind of like, if you want to make a religious um, connotation, Pontius Pilate in, you know, in the Bible, sorry, you know, it's not the same thing, but Pontius Pilate knew that Jesus was innocent, but he also loved his job, didn't want Caesar cutting his freaking head off. So when the Jews threatened to riot, he let them do whatever. In the same way, Salvador knows that technology is good for mankind, at least in small doses, because everybody here is still relatively, they at least have like a grandparent that was a part of that Holy Crusade. So like this is more recent for them. But but he still knows that technology can be beneficial. But when the Butlerians come in, when Manfred Toronto comes and be like, you better stop this. I don't care if you're the emperor. I will have my men cause problems everywhere. And he doesn't want that. So he concedes and concedes and concedes. Um, but yeah, overall, man, this first book was really good. I was expecting more from the Sisterhood. I mean, they're a significant part of the book, but they're not the whole thing, which is fine. But it's actually really fascinating, this sort of time period, because this is clearly after machines, but people's fervor and hatred for the machines, for the technology, is still ingrained in there, and it's becoming like this. The conflict seems to be revolving around the Butlerians, so this is like the new thing beginning. Um, there's a lot of other stuff going in the book. That the one bad thing about Frank Herbert and Brian, uh, one bad thing about Brian Herbert, geez, and Kevin J. Anderson is this. It just feels like there's so much going on in every book, and so I don't know if it was necessarily necessary, but I do love how the book ended. Um, I do love that. I'll say this, that Forian tries to make amends with Harkonnens. It doesn't go well, and that brings the rivalry. But it's the fact that it could have ended that makes it tragic. But yeah, this Arrakis is a small factor in this book just because Vorian Atreides, he makes a deal with the Emperor because he shows up because of stuff, and they're like, "We'll do this for you, but you have to go away. Like, just cease to exist. Like, fly off somewhere." So he ends up going to Arrakis. But yeah, it's just overall, I had fun with it. Is it as great as Dune? No, but again, it's not trying to be. It is, I think, a solid book in an expanded universe of Dune, and I do highly recommend it. Will I appreciate as much the next two books? I guess we'll see when I get to it. But until then, may the Force. Guys, I freaked up. Until next time, don't let the sandworms eat you. All right, bye.